Right, thank you everyone for coming today. My name is Jon Hernandez, and I'm a photographer from Barcelona. I'm a commercial photographer. So my job is working for brands like Samsung, Powerade, Land Rover, and these kind of brands. And my job is to help them produce images that make their products sell better. That's the key of my work. Anything else is not irrelevant, but nearly by. So the brands hire me to improve their imagery so their products sell better. The reason why a guy from Spain works in Germany, in London, in Paris, in Norway, is because, one of the reasons at least, is because of the way I light. I think it has a really big importance on my photography. And the way I use my external lights, it has a lot of characteristics on my photography. That's why for me it was very surprising. I'm a very technical person, and I have all kind of flashes in the studio for the medium format, for the normal cameras. I have all different kind, and I know a lot about technicals about flashes. I'm consistently with brands, helping them develop new products, like Falcon Eyes in this case, and other brands as well for flashes. And it was really shocking to me when, at that point last year in September, Benel, who's the distributor here in Europe for Falcon Eyes, they contacted me and they were like, "Hey John, would you like to try this new line of product that we're gonna bring out?" And I was like, "Oh sure, what is it gonna be? Like a battery flash or like a studio, quick flash duration flash? What is it going to be?" And they were like, "No, it's actually continuous light." And I was like, "Oh, continuous light, right." I never used continuous light in my life. I hated it. I never liked it before. I never thought it was good for my workflow and for the way I worked. So I was not very excited about this, to be honest. But then they sent me the box with all the products we have now in the studio. And I was with my assistant, and I remember the day, and I remember looking at him and being like, wow, this is a completely different thing than we expected. This is really cool, actually. And this really made me think not only about how we could use that in our workflow in order to improve our photos, but also how this affected photography. Because if you think about it, photography is a visual art. It's something related to what we see. If you're a landscape photographer, you go somewhere in the mountains, you find that beautiful spot, but before you capture the image, you have to see it in your eyes. You have to have the perception of the image before you can actually think about the technicalities to capture that image. If you're a sports photographer, you will hire this pilot to make jumps in front of you, but it's going to be related to what you see again. You will see through the viewfinder, and you will see the exact moment when the picture has to be captured, and the camera will capture that moment. As a portrait photographer, I look through the visor of my camera into my models, and I keep my eye on them, waiting until I see the right expression. And when I see the right expression is when I capture the image. So it made me think that everything in photography is totally related to what we see. So then here was the question. When it comes to lining our subjects, why do we have to use a technology, the flashes, that don't let me see? That don't let me see what I'm having, what I'm getting. I have photometers, I have modeling lamps, I have a lot of tools that were tools created to get the flashes closest to what they should be, something that we could see. And this really made me rethink about the way we work. It made me think that, why am I using this tool? And unfortunately, the answer is very simple. It's a technological limitation. There was nothing better to work with before. There's no reason. I compare it with horses. Like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, people used to move themselves on the top of a horse. But you don't see people on horses anymore on the streets. The reason was that there was a technological limitation for transportation. Nowadays, we have cars, and in the future, we will probably have, like, I don't know, flying cars or teletransportation or anything. But the reason is that nowadays, no one uses horses because that was a solution for that time. But that was not the best solution possible on Earth. It was just the possible solution at that time, so it was the best we had. With flashes, I have this feeling. I have the feeling that flashes have been the best possible solution because the technological limitations we had. But then nowadays, things are advancing and are evolving, so we can go back to work in a natural way, in how it should have been from the beginning, in working with something that we can actually see. So that made me very easy to accept the reason of starting using continuous light, because you know it's kind of like the same with mirrorless cameras and DSLR cameras. It's like feels a bit weird when you get into a mirrorless camera, but now almost everyone is moving into mirrorless and everyone is accepting that DSLRs are going to die over the next years. And if you think about this 5 years ago, there was a lot of people, myself included, that we were like defending ourselves. Like I was like advocating for phase one because they were saying like we're gonna keep the mirror on our cameras. It was like kind of a resistance against the new people. No, but over and over you start realizing that there is only benefits on technology, and what attaches you to the old things that are not advanced is just the use. If I was born today, I will not miss an optical viewfinder. Now I still miss it when I work with an Olympus or with my new Hasselblad, but I will not miss it if I was born today because I will not be used to the optical one. And with a continuous light, it's a very similar thing. If you find someone that says, no, I don't like to work with continuous light, it's either they probably did not try it or they tried the old ones. I remember trying the first mirrorless camera that came in the market and being like, oh, that's rubbish. It has a refresh rate that was giving me a headache after 5 minutes looking through it. But now you look at these viewfinders and you don't feel that anymore. So with LEDs happened the same. The first LEDs that came into the market, they were quite rubbish. So nowadays, the technology has changed, and if you try this now, you will be really surprised. So that was then a really good feeling of working with it, a feeling that we will not only change our technology, but we could change the way we work. And that's what I want to show you today. I want to show you how I work in photography and how this has changed the way I work in photography in some ways. For me, it's very important that a light source that I use in my photography has to accomplish a couple of things. And the first thing that we all think about is power. Is it powerful enough? So the answer is yes for some things. Obviously, if I want to outpower the sun in the middle of the Canarian Islands at 12 a.m. in the morning, I'm not going to have enough with one LED panel. That will arrive. We're getting in that direction. But it's not yet there. So at the moment, I haven't got rid of my flashes. I use my flashes a lot and for many jobs. But for some other things, the LEDs are taking over. So one reason is the power. The second reason is the quality. It's very important that the light quality, it's the same as I get with my flashes. If I had to give away something to work with this, it may not be a good deal. You know, the good deal is when you get more from the new things that you get than not giving up on some things. So the light quality I will show you later when we start. It's really good and it allows me to work for it. Light quality is a concept very subjective. Each photographer has a different conception of what light quality is. But so you know where we are. For me, light quality means consistency. Consistency of power and consistency of color. That's what is very important to me. Well, the last thing that is very important for me to work with a light system is that it has options. That I have different tools to create different lights, to create different setups, depending on the situation. As a commercial photographer, one day I may be shooting a fitness DVD for housewives, and the next day I may be shooting a fitness DVD for gym junkies. So the lining is completely different that you have to use for one or for the other. On one we want really soft, evolving, beautiful lights. On the other one we may want something hard, contrasty, and really punchy. So I need to be versatile. I need to have different tools. And if you saw my studio, you will be amazed at the amount of different tools I have for my flashes. I have Beauty Dish of 50, 56, and 70 in white and silver with 3 different grids for each of them and 3 different socks, depending on what I want to use. So it's a small, different versatility things that you can change, and it can change the result of your picture. I have Octabox, 80 centimeters, 110, 150. I have different Octaboxes depending on the situation. But overall, what I have is a plenty lot of tools to work with. So that was something I was not ready to give up on. And before this, the continuous light I saw, it was very limited on the options. There was one type of technology and different sizes, but that was it. So what we got here, and I will see during the presentation today, is that Falcon Eyes came with different kind of lights for different kind of situations. That allows us to have not only different shapes and different modifiers, but completely different output of light. And that lets me work with different ones depending on the situation I have. I'm going to use them all here today, and I will explain you as well how it works. So what I'm going to do today is a beauty shot. Like, imagine anything about a commercial for cosmetics. We will do that. And for that, obviously, we need a model. And we have Lynn. He's a beautiful model from here, from the Netherlands. I used to work with her because she used to live in Barcelona. That's how I met her. So when I came to work here for the professional imaging, I thought it was the perfect occasion to have her again. And she's amazing. So what I'm going to show you is how I build a portrait, no matter if I'm working with flashes or with continuous light, because that doesn't change. And then later you will see why I'm using LEDs for this. So the first thing and most important I want you to show you is, as I said before, that we have different kind of tools. So I want to show you the difference in a way that you can see it very obvious. So let's just start with the first LED panels that I use, which are the soft panels. This is a completely new technology, and this is really like, this is what really blew my mind. I don't know if you guys have seen LEDs before, but probably they did not look like this. This is a really stable light. That's only 30% of the power, but if I bring it up, I may blind you all. It's just really stable, and it's completely homogenic from one point to another. You don't see the little bulbs like you see in other kinds of panels that have all the characteristics. The reason for this is that the technology inside is totally different, and it changes. It's not the same as you are used to see like with the small bulbs. This has like perimetrical bulbs and then diffusion panels, and all makes the light output is different. The main thing, and you will see it over Lean, is that we get a soft light. And that's something that we did not have before on continuous light. Or we had to put like loads of modifiers, and there was hotspots and lots of stuff like this. So I'm going to just make a first Rembrandt look, just so you guys can see what this panel looks like when you put it on a model. I'm going to try to bring it up a bit. Oh, by the way, all of these panels, they can work either with battery or connected to the electricity. In my studio, I use them connected because it's just cheaper, probably, because the batteries are expensive. But for some locations, we have a couple of batteries that sometimes we go to a client house or something, then we might use a battery as well. I'm going to extend the Jeep a bit. Second that. Okay. Here we go. And now we just bring this a little bit closer to her. Okay, and just slightly higher. Cool. That should do for me. So let's take a look how this looks. Yeah, you can see already. I will put you the live view from the camera because, as we said, it's very important what we see. So as you can see there, can you go a bit lower, Lynn? You're a bit high. Yeah, thank you. So can you see there on the TV? It's a bit better than the projector. So as you see, if you look straight to camera, what you can see is that there is a Rembrandt set up, and you can see here we have the characteristic triangle from the Rembrandt. So this is what a Rembrandt is. So I'm going to take the picture and just show you in a bit of in detail what we're getting here. I'm going to get a bit closer because we are on a beauty, so we don't really need. There we go. Right. So take the live view away. So this is the picture we get, and as you can see on the Rembrandt, as you can see on the Rembrandt of the left side of the face of Lynn, I don't know if you can appreciate it, but the shadows are really soft. They're really transitional. Yeah, the hard shadow will be much more straight. So this is something that we did not have before with continuous light, and this is basic. I use octaboxes every day on my workflow with my photos. I use them for almost everything. So if I did not have that, it would be quite pointless to work with it. I'm going to make a similar setup with a more traditional panel so you guys can see the difference. Let's take this one off. Let's bring this one in. This is one of the other panels that you have. As I told you, there is different tools that you can use. And these ones, they have the characteristic that they are flexible panels. They are bendable. They actually come rolled in the box. So they are really resistant. They are weatherproof. You can make them wet, no problem. So this is a really more traditional panel, but with some characteristics that we can use it outdoors and that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to bring this down. There we go. Okay. Let's try to make something similar to what we had before with the other light, just so you can see the difference between the shadows. So now it's about the same distance, but more or less. Okay, here we go. So this should be about similar. I'm not gonna spend time trying to match the amount of light and stuff, but so you guys can see. Let me get that in Lightbox. If anyone is wondering, this is Olympus software. I work with Olympus in Spain for workshops and stuff. So let me see if I can get the Lightbox going. Hello. Doesn't want to work. Okay. Sorry about that. It's my mouse that got blocked. Let me see if I have my mouse here. Okay, that's better. So if we go to 100% and we try to see the shadows, can you see the difference on this screen? It's maybe not the best. Later, if you want, on the panel stand around the corner, we will have everything. You can come and take a look and pixel peep and everything you want. But basically, what I want you to realize is that here we have a much sharper image, which has harder shadows. Obviously, it's a big panel very close to the face of Lynn, so that's still giving me quite a soft surface. But compared to the soffit light with a soft panel, there is a big difference on the transitions of the shadows. And that's what gives me the alternative to use one or another. It would be like if I use a beauty dish or I use a softbox. It was this kind of thing, no? So this versatility of different options is what I really like of this kind of technology. This is what I want. By the way, I have here a microphone. I will pass it over. If anyone has any questions, just stop me and ask me, okay? So now that we've seen that there is different tools to work with, let's start building our setup. And we'll turn this off. And the key for me to work, the key of my workflow, is to work one light at a time, because I never know how many lights I'm going to use in a picture. Except when I'm teaching, obviously. But I never know if my photo is going to have 3 lights or 23 lights. It totally depends on when I achieve what I've seen in my brain before. So I start from the first light, and I add another light, and I add another light, and I add another light, until I get the picture where I want it. So in this case, I'm going to start, and I always start, with my key light. My first main light is the one that is going to define the mood of my picture. So in this case, as I said, we're going to do a cosmetic shot, and that cosmetic shot is going to be something that has to sell cosmetics. So it has to sound healthy, happy, self-confident. This is kind of the things that my client will ask me for. So I'm going to start just putting a beauty light on her. Like we could just do usually a Rembrandt or a Paramount or butterfly, however you want to call it, which will be like a setup where we will focus a soft light on her skin to get a good result on the volume of her face. So let's start here, see how this looks. By the way, my settings at the moment is ISO 200, 1/100 of a second, and f4. So it's nothing of any other dimension. It's pretty much what you would use in studio with flashes. I use f4 here because Olympus has a smaller sensor. So this is equivalent to an f8 in a full-frame camera. So you can imagine that we have more than enough depth of field. So I'm just going to start with this, perfectly. And as you can see, this is going to be my first light. There is a bit more contrast here. I'm going to turn on the alarms on my software. And that way, I will see if there is anything blown out, it will blink. So even if it looks like this part might be blown out, it's not. This is the shadows. And the highlights, there is nothing blown out, so I'm fine with my light. I could dial it down a bit if it was blown out. It's not. It looks on the screen because the contrast of the two is not so good. So we are fine. So I can turn off the alarm because I know that we're okay there. So this light is a beautiful portrait, right? Already? So if what I was looking for was a moody painting look portrait, I would probably stop here and start my session with my model, start looking for the right expression. But this is not selling you cosmetics. This is not a beauty shot. This is not making you feel that Lynn is a super healthy, happy woman. So we have to change the lining on this, right? So what I'm going to do is one of the things that is mostly used, obviously the expression of the model helps. Lynn, can you look forward straight and then smile to the camera, big smile, teeth open, and yeah, there you go. If she looks like this, she's a bit closer to what we want in a beauty advertising, but still, the lining is not in line to what I'm telling with her face. The face is more like a moody portrait. Sorry, it's more like the lining is more a moody portrait, and the face is a smiling girl. So that doesn't matches together. That way the picture doesn't work. So if we want to do this kind of picture, but we want to get this look from the commercials, we have to bring more light. And the light that works better for this is the light from the bottom, because it pulls your model up, it raises her up. We use that a lot for politicians because it makes them important. And with models, when we want to do beauty, we do the same. We put light from the bottom, and that with what we call a clamshell light setup, and that makes them important, makes them look good. So I'm going to use something which I love from these LEDs. I heard before Joao, I don't know if anyone was here when he was speaking, talking about a reflector that you usually put for the eyes. There's something you put down below the model. Yep. Kind of thing. It's kind of a reflector. Have you seen it? It's kind of a reflector you put on the bottom, but it has a shape, so it kind of leads her from different angles. So I used to use that sometimes for beauty shots. I usually hate reflectors, but for beauty shots sometimes I use this, because I hate reflectors because they don't have any control, and I'm a control freak. So when you have a reflector and your assistant is holding it, and then you're shooting, getting into the model and getting into communicating with your model, you're not checking your picture every time. So you're shooting, and all of a sudden you stop and you see your assistant checking out the model and the reflector is pointing at you. So this kind of things doesn't really help. So with you have a flash in a light stand, it's staying there for the whole time. That's something I really like. So I don't use many reflectors. So this was a perfect solution, because with this, I can have a reflector, but I can control it. And I can not only control the power like when I put a softbox below my model, but I can control it separately from one side to the other to the other. That makes it really, really versatile to use. I'm going to show you, I'm going to try to set up this. It's not as easy as it looks, but because when you have 3 of them connected, they connect by Velcros, and then they start taking kind of like a bit of weight, and you have to, oops, you have to put them in the right way. So this one, we will have it. Wait a second. Yeah, it has to be in the other side. They connect with Velcros, as I said, and it's quite simple. This would be working better on this side. There we go. So I want to be able to control the angle of the reflector. So I'm going to just plug it here. Perfect. And I'm just going to create this kind of circular reflector. That's going to be good there. We're going to be a bit higher. Try to make it as even as possible. As you can see, here we have like a reflector with 3 panels, and each panel is going to work in a separate way. So I can decide the power of each panel separately, and I can change with that the volume of the face of my model. I will show you that in a second. Let's first of all turn them on and put them in the same power, all of them, so you can see what the normal flashlight or LED or anything you put it down here will do. And here we will start with some of the things. Set them off channel, because you know they are connected by Wi-Fi. So if I change one, I could change the other, and if someone at the booth was changing one, they could be changing our setup here. So I'm going to turn off the Wi-Fi so I can actually put them. And you can change the color as well. As you see, there's different models, and you can do different. There's only white ones, and there is white and yellow. You can see everything down there at Benel. So I'm going to put them at 20% at 5,600 Kelvin, all of them. And just take a look at how this looks now, how we changed from the picture that we had. Can you smile at me a little bit? Yeah. Thank you, Lynn. So look at where we are, bam. Completely different picture. Let's go back to compare them. So here we're with one light. Here we have two lights. This is much closer to a beauty shot that we usually see. Obviously, we haven't touched anything or regulated anything. What I want you to see is now the power of this tool, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off the middle one, just make it like very little power, like 5%. And I will just bring up a bit the side ones to 30%. So now I have the middle one in a low power, but the two sides are more powerful. And you tell me how this changes the picture. Can you see it? Can you see the difference on her face? Where she has like more volume on the face, but instead here she has more shadows. It's a completely different way to see the picture. I don't know if you can see it well there. Let me put them in bigger. This one is when we have like less power in the center. And here she has the same power even in the whole surface. You see the difference on the volume of her face? You see, especially on the cheekbones? Yeah? You see here? Like look at here on the cheeks. And look at the difference. It's pretty obvious there. So if we change the distribution now, I'm going to lower the sides. I'm going to put the sides at 10%. And I'm going to put the center at a 30%. Oops. And now you will see, again, that we have a completely different picture again. Whoa. It's changing, isn't it? So what we have is the whole range from going from here to here to here and everything in between, playing with our reflector in 3 different power settings. If I had a reflector, I will only have the amount of power that he wanted to bring in. That's it. If I had a flash, I could change this amount of power, but it will be consistent in the whole flash. By having 3 panels, I can do that very easily. If I wanted to do it with flashes, I will need 3 flash heads down there with 3 softboxes independently, and that we all know it's very complicated and expensive, right? So I'm going to set it how I like it, and it's like lifting a bit less, the sides, and a bit less on the center. So I'm going to go 20% on the sides, and I'm going to go down to 10% on the center. So usually I bring a bit more power from the sides than from the center. And here we go. So this will be my choice for this, right? That's what I'm liking now. But from here, as I said before, I keep adding light by light. This is already getting me closer, and it's defining the beauty shot look. But I want to separate my model from the background. You can see that on the shoulders, the lines are very undefined. Even we have a black background. She's melting into it. So we're going to, yeah. Yeah, sure, I can show you the eyes. Here you go. The catch light, we will even it out in post-production, usually. If I have a big difference, like let me show you, for example, the one before. Yeah, this one is more obvious, for example. This one, because I played a lot with the power, you can see that the middle catch light is much lower than the sides. So we will even this out in post-production and eliminate the transitions, so it looks even and natural. And usually with a Gaussian blur, you just diffuse it, and it looks good. So, as I was saying, I want to separate my model from the background. And for this, if I was on flashes, I will use strip boxes. And luckily, Falcon Eyes made the strip boxes for the LEDs as well. Because for me, you know, I always say to any photographer that's asked me what to buy, I always say first buy an octabox, second buy a strip box, third buy another strip box. Because for me, it's like an amazing tool. You have a lot of control on the direction of the light, and you can really define the light where you want it and where you don't want it. So for these ones, we already reported that we wanted to have barn doors. And we build them ourselves with cardboard, and we have them with that gaffer tape there, and then we just angle the light however we want it. But by itself, it's already really good. And as I said before, this is going to separate my model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the back here. Let's get a bit closer to her. Just hope I don't break the background. Right? And we can go lower. Perfectly. And you know, usually what I will do in my studio, I have a big column that has a monitor and my laptop and my camera on a stand kind of thing, and I can move it around. So I will move my column here, and I will be looking at the live view of the camera if I had the camera on the tripod, and I will be just playing with this until I see in the live view if it's looking good or not. So it saved me lots of time from going, testing, coming back, changing the power, testing. This case, you guys have to see the TV, not me. So I can show you. I will show you full power, so you take a look how it looks like when we just blow it up, and then look at the shoulder. So look at the difference from this to this. You see how the definition of the line, sorry, this one not. The definition of the line of the shoulder of Lynn, now it's a sharp definition. That gives me three-dimensionality. If I go to the old one and I zoom in, you will see that the definition is not so much because it's melting down with the background, right? So this is what I'm going to do. Obviously, the one I just did, it was a little bit too powerful, and it's bringing too much light into her hair. So I'm just going to drop the power, and I'm going to feather it out a bit. Just going to drop it. There you go. I'm just going to feather it out a bit so it's not so relevant. Just something subtle to give me the three-dimensionality I want. Oops. There we go. That's better. It's a bit softer. I still get the three-dimensionality, but it's not like blowing up her skin and stuff. So test. So I'm going to put another one on the other side. Do you guys have any questions? Just ask me. Right, so this one is going to do the same thing for the other shoulder kind of thing. So pretty much we would just do the same, just adjust it more or less, feather it a bit. That should be a bit lower. I usually use them symmetrically. So if I had the dual color ones, I could just link them on one group and just change the power. They will change at the same time and keep the same amount of power. So that should be good there. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, so you can see now, we can see much more of the shoulder division, separation. You see it on the comparison between these and the one that had nothing. So you guys can see. Yeah, big difference, right, from the rim lights. So it's defining much more the shape of my model and giving me that three-dimensional look that will work either on a gray background, black background, or even a white background, because she's quite pale skin, so even on a white background, she will kind of melt into it. It's just the separation by light and not just for the contrast of the color. So this could be already like a pretty good picture, and it could work for a cosmetics advertising if we had a white background and blown out white. That is usually what we use there. But I'm kind of missing a little bit here. She still not looks that empowered to me, and that's one light that I'm using a lot is the zenithal light for the hair. It works in the same way that I said before from the bottom light of the clamshell, and many times for portraits that are not from girls, maybe men, I use only like Rembrandt setup with a zenithal light to give them that empowerment. And you will see that this makes a big difference as well. So I'm going to bring this jib in, and I'm going to put it on top of her head. Try not to kill her. We will try with that, Lynn. I don't promise anything. Because this is a jib that's really heavy because it's made for flashes. Now when we work with these panels that weigh like 200 grams, it's really like an overkill, but that's what they had here. So the only ones that are a bit heavy are these ones because the frame is really sturdy. So that would be something like there. I would just raise it up. Now we just raise it up a little bit. There we go. And now we go a bit lower. Beautiful. Okay, now I can go closer to you. And what I do with this light usually is bring it from the back towards the front. I will show you in a second. I'll just bring it really low, close to her head. There we go. This has to be a little bit more extended. Okay, and then I can go lower. She doesn't like slower. There we go. It's like putting a ceiling on her. And then I just tilt it forward because that's what's going to give me is the light here, but projecting it towards the camera. So it will give me, again, a three-dimensionality on the back of her head, but on top of that, it will pop. You see for yourselves. Let me turn it on. That would be good. There we go. This will be full power. And again, here, I just want a very little kick of light on top of her hair, so it has to be kind of subtle. Can you look forward? I'm seeing with my eyes what the light is doing on her hair. And that's what's going to happen in the picture. So I can see it, you know. If I put a modeling lamp, you know, this is a myth. It's such a funny thing. Everyone talks about modeling lamps like if it was like the real thing. It has nothing to do. Your modeling lamp nowadays is an LED, which is like a tiny little spotlight in the middle of your softbox, while your flash tube is a cylindrical thing that projects light in 360 degrees inside the softbox. So what you get from the modeling light is not what you get from the flash. So I never use modeling lights because they feel useless to me. So anyway, you will see now here, we just get lean there. Beautiful. There you go. You see the difference? It's huge. You see the difference on the top of her hair? That's what this light makes. And now she looks much more like a cosmetics advertising. Yeah? So this is exactly the same as I said that I will use on flashes. I used this setup for a very long time, doing beauty photography with flashes before I had LEDs. I only using LEDs since September last year. So this is exactly the same setup because the way I light, it doesn't changes because I use LEDs. It doesn't change as if I was using candles. It's exactly the same rules apply. The only thing is I have different modifiers, let's call it, in this case, it's different LEDs that give me like more crispy look down here, like beauty dishes or reflectors, more soft lights up here, like softboxes or octaboxes, and then these ones that are actually something in between and give me lots of directionality. So I have different tools for my setup. But getting to this point, it would be the same if I was today doing this with flashes. What changes now, and the reason for why we accepted the LEDs in our studio, is because it does some things better than flashes. So one very, very easy example of something that you cannot do with flashes. I've seen before Frank doing a demo there with the new Profoto, these like super high-speed flashes. Well, this is the new Olympus camera. It shoots up to 60 frames per second. Can you do this with flashes? You probably did not hear it, but if you can see, this is images popping. Look at the consistency of the color and the power. There is absolutely no change. This is something cannot be done with flashes. It's no matter. It's like different photos. Let's do the same so you guys can see it better. Can you lean actually move? Yeah, now you will see it better because before she was still and you could not see that. It was a different picture every time. This is full raw image. This camera shot 60 per second. Most of cameras shot 10. But you cannot do 10 per second with a flash. That's impossible. So this is one of the things. This is obviously not so relevant. It's not something we use every day. But something I really use every day is to talk to my models, to communicate with them, to create a flow of work. And this is the most important part. Where my picture is going to be a killer picture or just an average picture, it's not so much about the technique. It's about the communication and the connection between me and the model. When we nail it, when we do our job in the perfect way. And for that, there is many elements that are important. One of the most important elements is that we have a flow of work, that she can get into her role. She's an actress. She's giving me that role that now she's a happy girl that just put her makeup on and she feels pretty and she feels happy and healthy and everything. So if she has to give me that, she has to get into it. And if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lights on her face popping like pa, 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 and then beep, 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 and then one flash overheating, that doesn't help. But here, it's her and me. There is nothing technological in between us anymore. And I can work like I usually work with the LEDs like this. Okay, Lynn, I want you to, instead of posing, just moving. Yeah, it'll move slowly, beautiful, nice. And I keep looking through the viewfinder, as I said before, until I see the right there, the right expression. And then when I see it, I click. And it may be anywhere in between her moves. Most of you, if you work with flashes, you usually work with poses. We work the model and you tell her at the beginning of the shooting, hey, after every flash, change your poses slightly. Very slight movement. So Lynn, for example, you put your head up here, and then you give me one pose up here, and then when the flash pops, you give me the next one. Bam. Yeah, that's what we will get. Let's get the first one. There. And now the second one. Change. Yeah, beautiful. So that's what I get when I work with flashes. Pose, 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 pose. But instead, when I have this setup, Lean can do the same movement, and I can get, go again, 1, 2, 3, go to the beginning, go back to the top, yeah. I can get this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and any of them, not depending on the refresh of the flashes, not that when I want the picture, the flash is refreshing because it just took a picture before. I can get all of them if I shoot at 60 frames per second. I can do all of this, and basically, the thing changes, and that sounds really bad, but it changes from her deciding the poses to me deciding what poses we capture. Because when I work with flashes and she's like changing, she's just giving me the poses she wants. That one and that one. But when I work in a continuous way without interferences, without having to depend on the refresh rate, I can decide which of all the possible instants I want to capture. So this makes a massive difference for me. You guys have any questions? Right, so I'm going to do a different setup, so you see something different as well. So we will take this off and show you something different as well. More simple. So I'm going to unplug this one, so I just take it off. So one quick setup that we can do is turning this off as well and turning this off. And I'm just going to bring the two strip boxes in front of her. Get this out of the way. I don't know if this is on your way, guys. Let me take it away. So I'm going to just put the two strip boxes. Good. In front of her. Beautiful. Perfect. I'm just going to get close to her. And I'm going to go really defocus. I'm going to go 1.8 here. I will raise up my shutter to like maybe 640, something like that. Good. Let's do that, Lean, but let's move forward so we get a more dark background. So come towards me. A bit closer, yeah? Yeah, that's better. Right. So now I'm here. Beautiful. Just keep it forward, keep it straight, like look face straight. Yeah, perfect. Beautiful. There. Look at how quick we move from a beauty shot to something more creative. Yeah, we were here and we're here in, what, 2 minutes? Why? Because I see everything I do. It's very natural for me because it's like working with natural light. It's the same way. Another good point is combining this with flashes. This lets us arrive to places where flashes did not arrive. Not long ago, we had a shooting with a car, and we would have done with flashes. We would have shot the car from the outside with the flashes, and then we would have placed some flashes inside, shot the inside of the car, and then in post-production, we will have mixed it to get the light inside and outside of the car. But in this case, what we did is we took some of these flexible panels, and we glued it, we gaffer taped them on the ceiling of the car inside. So our subject was inside the car, lit by the panels, and we flashed the car from the outside. So you get the best of the both worlds. So it's all about experimenting. And here is the same again. I can get Lean to just keep moving, and I can just keep deciding when is my moment to take the picture. And I can keep following her. I'm very close here. And then, yeah, there. Beautiful. So I can just keep moving and deciding, and I don't have to depend if in 2 instants consecutive, I feel that there is 2 good pictures, I can capture them. Usually I have to wait for the refreshment of the flashes. If I have very powerful flashes, I can obviously have a faster refreshment, but this makes me work in a more natural and easier way. And there is a very important thing here, guys. Like, for me, I'm used to flashes. I'm experimented with them. I work with them for 8 years, and I know them very well. When I go to a situation, I know what's going to happen when I put my flash with my octabox here. I know what's going to be the result because of my experience with them. But for many people, flashes are a problem. They make you difficult to imagine what's going to be the result, what you're going to need, what you don't going to need. This is natural. You can skip all that learning of flashes because this is giving you the same quality result but without having to understand something that we cannot see. So as I said before, the important thing is about seeing in photography. And the LEDs is what we should have gotten like long time ago. We should have started technology from here. It would be much easier for every photographer in the world. But the technology was not able to do it. You know, LEDs are changing the world in many fields. You can see that cars now have LEDs in their lights. That was supposed to be impossible. Now you have panels for your house that are LEDs, not fluorescents anymore. So photographers, we're getting the same benefit. This is changing for us. And the future is really bright because we're going to get more and more LEDs, more powerful, and they're going to take over flashes. Make sure that in 10, 15, 20 years, we will be using LEDs outdoors with a lot of power. So now this is a step closer to that. We can start using them. In my studio, we use them for any kind of portrait indoor that is half body or closer that goes with LEDs for sure, no question. From there, if it's a full body, it depends. If it's a group of 20 people, we may not use LEDs. But for like moody portraits or actor books or anything like that, we go with LEDs for sure. It's much more natural. It makes the client see the result live, which is also important. He's seeing it. He's feeling into the mood. If you have an actor or an actress, he's getting into the mood much easier because this is telling him the story already. So for us, it's been an improvement. We're not throwing away our flashes yet. Of course not. They're still useful for many, many things. But this is giving us a tool that is improving our ways to photography in some ways. So if anyone has any questions, you can ask us now. Or if not, you have a question there? You have the microphone? Thank you. Thanks. You have to put it very close to your mouth.
Can you combine the flash
Closer.
and the LED? Can you combine flash and LED?
Yeah, you can combine flash and LED. That's no problem. As I was saying before, we used it in that car shot where we light the inside of the car with the LEDs and the outside with the flash. But also we done like a tutorial video on YouTube where we made like continuous light with flash to freeze the model, but make some fabric show some movement. So you can definitely combine them. You just have to play like the same way that you will combine your ambient light with your flashes when you're balancing a window. It's the same way. And especially because you can change the color of these ones are only white, but the ones there you can change the color, and they are dual color. So you can, when you have to balance ambient and flashes and LEDs, sorry, it's even easier. So yeah, definitely you can. Does anyone else has a question? No? So thank you very much for coming. We will be around the corner at the Benel stand, and there we can give you like more information. You can check the pictures we did, or you can take some pictures yourself. Thank you.